Hey everyone, this is Miss Englert. These are your notes for Thursday, April 15th, 2021. 8.8 AIM. How do air masses form? Gotta be honest, I actually don't know that we're actually on 8.8, but the last number I remember is 8.7. So we're gonna go with 8.8. For your do now, you're gonna explain in your own words what you think an air mass is. You're just gonna type your answer in that cute little spot right there, and we're gonna have a good time. Or you can skip ahead a few slides and figure it out that way, but you didn't hear it from me. Alright, that was a dumb thing to say, and I'm over it. So, we're going to talk about what air masses are. If you're in our later periods yesterday, we did touch on these a little bit, but I want to make sure that everyone knows what an air mass is in case, Regents exams and things. So, an air mass is a large body of air that has similar temperature. You can see that word there. Temperature, humidity, and pressure. So air masses are named for where they have formed. So they're going to form we're going to break it down into just a couple places. And that's going to be over land or water. And if the air mass is humid, which means that it has a lot of water vapor, or if it is dry, which means it does not have a lot of water vapor. So we are going to talk about our 4 types of air masses. If you look on this diagram, you can see where the main air masses of the world form. And they have these cute little symbols that say MT, CT, CP, MP, CA. Sorry, the A is just like really large, so I had to say it like that. MT, not empty like my stomach. Like I need to go get some snacks and then probably go to sleep because it's late. For those of you guys who know that I usually record these videos at 11:58 p.m. Look it's only 9:13. I'm sorry. I had a lot of sugar, so I'm kind of excited about this. Don't know why, but let's start talking about these 4 types of air masses. So our first type of air mass is continental. So continental air masses form over land. Continents are land. Continental air masses form over land. Magical. So rock typically tends to be drier than water, right? Like they're 2 completely different elements. Like a waterbender cannot bend earth. Like no matter how many fan fictions or different spin-offs of Legend of Korra there are, if you're a waterbender and you're not the Avatar, you cannot bend earth. So they're totally different elements. So sorry, tangent. Continental air masses. Continental air masses transport dry air. Maritime, if you notice that word, if you are not failing Spanish currently, or if you speak Spanish fluent, you know that mar means ocean or sea. I think it means sea. Big body of water. So maritime are air masses that form over water. These air masses, because they form over water, they actually transport wet air. So if you imagine all of this water is just, not all of it, but like a good amount of it is just evaporating and entering the air above those bodies of water, and then it's transported different areas of the earth. Our 2 other types, these are going to be like our second sort of definition of our air masses. We have polar, which form near the poles. So they form above 60 degrees north and below 60 degrees south latitudes near the poles. These air masses are going to be cooler. These are going to be nice, cool air. So if you guys remember those polar vortexes, we had a one a few years ago that was just like the polar vortex, and it was frigid. It was I want to say like 15 degrees below freezing. It was very, very, very cold. We actually had a polar vortex a couple months ago that swung down and made things quite chilly here. But we're all inside, so it doesn't matter as much, I guess. Our other type of air mass is tropical. So just like you would imagine it, tropical air masses form over the tropics near the equator, and they're going to be warm. So we have our polar and we have our tropical, so we got cool and we got warm air. So our 4 types of air masses are going to form in different areas. So this is just a map of the Earth. So if we look, oh, I can't draw on this. If you look at the top and the bottom, those are going to be more our polar, and then tropic air masses are going to be towards the lighter blue in the center that you guys can't really see. And then we're going to have maritime over the ocean and continental over land. So let's check these guys out a little bit more. So we're going to, you guys are going to write on your Pear Deck, you guys are going to write the abbreviations for these. For continental polar, continental tropical, maritime polar, and maritime tropical. So what those are. We have CP, so we have a small, so you got, when you're, if you take the regions, you need to know that the C and the M are lowercase. So it's a lowercase c for continental and a lowercase m for maritime. And then the P stands for polar, and T stands for tropical. So if your air mass is continental polar, it is dry because it's formed over land, and it's cool because it's polar. If it is continental tropical, it is dry because it's on land, and then it's warm because it's, I don't know why that symbol looks terrible. And then it's warm because it was formed in the tropics. Maritime polar is wet or moist. I want to say moist because I know some people hate the word, and I don't. So it's going to be either wet or moist, and it's going to be cool because it's formed near the poles. Whereas our maritime tropical is going to be wet or moist, and that is because it is formed over water, and then it's going to be warm because it's formed in the tropics. So how does temperature affect air masses? Colder air is more dense and it sinks. So because cold air is dense and it sinks, it actually creates higher air pressure. So when you have a cold air mass move into an area, the skies are going to clear up. So like we had a cool front, or we have a cold air mass that was actually hanging over us today. Today is only Wednesday. But the skies were clear, and it was a little bit chilly, but it wasn't as muggy. It was nice and dry. I love dry weather. So these polar air masses have cooler temperatures and higher air pressure. And then if we have warmer air is less dense. Warmer air is less dense. It rises, and because it's moving up from the ground, it is creating lower air pressure. So we don't have as much dry air pushing down on us. We actually have moist air that is actually lifting up. So tropical air masses are warmer temperatures and they have lower air pressure. So on this map, you guys are going to fill in where these go. Your abbreviations are CP for continental polar, MP for maritime polar, CT for continental tropical, and then MT for maritime tropical. So on the next slide, I'm actually going to show you where these guys are. So if you look at these drawings, you might just pause this and then write it on your own page, whatever, do your thing. I do want to point out that we do have a few maritime air masses that form off on this is the west coast and this is the east coast. Just putting those out there. So we have our maritime polar that forms up near the Gulf of Alaska, and then we actually have a maritime polar that forms up near wherever these places are near Canada, right? So when I lived in Minnesota, I actually used to live, oh, I didn't know I could zoom in that well. I used to live actually here. You see the little red dot I just put there? I used to live right there. Basically Canada. It was mad cold and they got lots of snow and rain. Don't live there, guys. Actually, it's very beautiful. I just don't recommend living there because it's cold. All right, so you guys will copy this down. So the last question is, or actually the last part of notes for y'all, is what happens when two air masses meet? It is true love. No, when two air masses of different temperatures and humidities meet, the boundary in between them is called a front. So if you, oh, I can't draw on this. Ah, okay. So I'm going to make sure that you guys can draw on this. So when you look at these two air masses, the blue actually means cool. So that's going to be your cool or cold air mass. And then the red is going to be warm. So remember that warm air will rise. Cold air wants to stick towards the ground. So when that wedge, so you see this, like, it's kind of a wedge shape, like a wedge heel sort of shape. Maybe you don't see it, but that's okay. So it's actually going to move. You see the arrow, it's moving forward. It's actually going to force that warm air up. So the cool air actually forces the warm air up. And right along that edge, we're going to get different types of weather. We'll talk about more fronts on Monday. But that's just about it. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into those because I think fronts are really cool. And this is coming as a rock person, not as a meteorology person, but I think they're pretty cool. I'll also make a note to myself to make this a drawing slide for y'all. So your exit tickets, you got 3 questions. You're going to answer the first one. Which air mass is associated with low relative humidity and high air temperature? The second one is going to be which type of air mass is associated with warm, dry atmospheric conditions? So again, which type of air mass is associated with warm, dry atmospheric conditions? Just a reminder for those, A is continental tropical, B is maritime polar, C is continental polar, and then D is maritime tropical. Lastly, an air mass is classified as MT, usually forms over what type of Earth's surface. So make sure that you think about whether it is on land or whether it's over a body of water, and then if it's formed near the poles or if it's formed near the equator. And that's all I got for you guys, so go ahead and do those, and then feel free to message me if you have any questions. Good luck, y'all.